Back here in North Texas, a lot of you are still probably trying to process the fact that the state fair is not going to happen this year. For many of us, it is a family tradition. But the news is surely easier for most of us to hear, unlike the vendors who depend on the fair for their livelihood. Here to talk a little bit more about what's going on is Johnna McKee. She's the co-owner of Fernie's and the dock at the fair. Thanks for being with us right now.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
So sorry to hear that the fair is canceled. What's the economic impact going to be to you and your fellow vendors?
Well, the economic impact is going to be for especially the vendors that support this fair, supports their livelihood year-round. And being a year-round revenue coming in, that wipes out their whole income for their year. Us ourselves, it's not our sole income for the year, but it not only impacts the vendors, the concessionaire vendors, it impacts the people that we buy from, our suppliers. We have about 100 employees that work for us, and some of them have been back year after year. So it's definitely going to impact us to that income coming in for them during that time in October.
Were you surprised? Was this something you expected? Did they prepare you for this?
We had a little bit of preparation for it as to what part of the game plan would be if they could open. And the staff at the State Fair of Texas and they just did an amazing effort to try and get this to happen. And I'm blessed that it didn't happen, because I could not imagine what would happen in October as to our employees being out there and be over 400 degrees heat, making funnel cakes, and just the safety for our whole community.
It sounds like you're sort of saying that it wasn't looking feasible for you, regardless of what the fair was going to say. It just didn't feel right, or didn't feel safe.
Well, it was a big risk. It's a financial risk on if you do go to the aspect of saying you're going to open up the fair and we're going to have a fair, and then 4 days later the fair has to get shut down. It's a risk that all of us were going to have to take, and that would have been a big financial hit. And 2 years ago we had rain for like 20 of the days of the State Fair of Texas. So
you're able to prepare like this. This is a good runway for you to make these decisions and not.
Oh, definitely. Yes, definitely. We start preparing for the fair in August. I mean, so we have, it takes 2 months for us to get it up and going, because we want to be the best hostesses we can to 2.5 million people at the Great State Fair of Texas. And so that's where the hard part of it comes in, is that we're a little sad that we don't get to share that we have done this for it would be our 51st year.
So that's quite a commitment to the fair. You know, some vendors are now announcing that they'll have pop-up locations or looking for other ways to have some sales for this year. Are you planning on doing anything like that, and what have you heard along those lines?
Absolutely. I can tell you we have such a following for Fernie's funnel cakes, and we have been approached by a couple of different places that would like to see when we can do some of these pop-up places where we can get that Fernie's funnel cake out to all our great friends and family and people that just come in. They come into the dock and they say, this is the first place we come. This is the last place we come. This is a tradition. We've had it forever. So we are just before this interview, I was on a phone call with my sister, and we're talking about where we're going to have this pop-up at and get the word out to people. And they can follow us on Fernie's Facebook page and see when we're going to be out there.
Did my neighborhood
where we can
come
still
up
get
there?
a little bit of the fair.
When you're talking about locations, did my neighborhood come up?
It did. You know, we're going to have a party on your street.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. My last question is, I guess you have a community of vendors, you know, that you've seen all these years. Are you kind of talking to each other to just work this issue out, you know, together and see if you can support each other?
Yes, it's a great support system. I mean, even during the fair, after the fair, everybody, even though you're your neighbors at the fair and everybody's trying to get those coupons in their box, we still support each other 100%. And there's people that have been there longer than we have, but we always can depend on, if you run out of a bag of this or run out of a bag of that, or you have staff that doesn't show up, we're all calling each other saying, hey, we need your help. And so there's been a lot of support in the past couple of days with people saying, you know, do we drink a bottle of wine?
Yeah,
what do we do tonight?
Drink a bottle of wine. Johnna, thank you so much for your time. 50 years at the fair. Hopefully you'll get a chance to be back there next summer or next September.
We sure hope so, and we hope to see you and celebrate next year.
I'll see you on my street with the funnel cakes.